Hi, I'm Keith, and this is my dad, Kerwin. So this year was New York Comic Con, and we happen to know a couple of people who actually attended. And this episode, the Star Bros are here to tell us all about it and more on this episode of Fox the Galaxy. So strap in for hyperspace, y'all.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. The Star Bros are Ben and Jan, two cool dudes who bring insightful and intellectual commentary on all things Star Wars. They are a part of the Broaxium channel of Geek and pop culture entertainment. Ben and Jan also contribute to Broaxium's Quickshot, which they provide a sneak preview of any upcoming Star Wars releases from Marvel Comics. And the best part of Star Bros is that they're local. They're in our community. They are a part of our Philly region, so we cannot be more than happy to introduce you to Ben and Jan. Ben and Jan, welcome to Father Son Galaxy.
Hello.
Thank you for having us. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I know we were on your show last year, and this is the first time having you on our podcast. So
it's nice to reverse roles.
Exactly. Yes. and I mean, you guys are so cool. You know, I enjoy listening to your podcast, your conversations. So. You know, it's funny. Like we said, we're in the community, but we haven't met in person as of yet.
Yeah, which is
not yet.
Yeah, we're all close to the Philly region.
Yes, right.
We will change that. We'll get one of those. We'll get one of those cheesesteaks together. You know, that's very famous for our area. Whatever it takes.
The cheesesteaks are delicious.
Okay.
That's usually my reaction too, believe it or not.
We're big cheesesteaks fans here. So for those who don't know your podcast, can you tell us who are Ben and Jan and how did you guys meet?
That's a great question. I don't know where we should start, Jan. All the way back at the beginning where we met at work?
The beginning is usually a good place to begin. Yeah. So why don't we go there?
Yeah, so we met probably a little over 10 years ago now, both starting at the company that we work at the exact same time, the exact same group, and kind of looked at each other and said, hey, I like Star Wars, you like Star Wars. There's some Star Wars just came up naturally in a moment, and when we just latched onto that as the thing that we always had in common. From then on out, I think it was the same year like Disney announced that they were buying Star Wars, so it always kind of that moment kind of solidified our friendship and our love for Star Wars, and we were just excited every chance that we got to go to a Star Wars movie. We went to it together on opening night, and just made a tradition out of it until the very last film went to theaters. We sat down across the table, debriefed Rise of Skywalker, and had such a great conversation. And we looked at each other, and what did we say, Jan?
I think we realized in that moment that it was the type of conversation that we would want to listen to, and maybe other people would want to listen to as well. And so we started playing with this idea of having a podcast. And then when the quarantine came and the lockdown came, I think a lot of people got a little bit of time back, and some people picked up different types of projects. And we decided that, hey, maybe this is our chance to finally put together this podcast that we've been talking about. So our first episode came out in July of 2020, and we've been going strong ever since, recording pretty much every other week. And it has been a blast because this has been a really cool time to be a Star Wars fan with all the comic books and the movies and the TV shows. And I don't know, we just feel really lucky to be part of this community with you guys and all the other fans right now.
Yeah, that was a year before we started back in March of 2021. When we finally had enough of screens and decided to put our faces on screens.
Right. Yes. Right. After having so many conversations at the dinner table, right? Yeah.
Yes.
But I find that very interesting. That's awesome that you two met at work and you just happen to be Star Wars fans. I have worked for many companies. I work with many of other peers and employees, and I have never found anyone on the job
really
who I know is a Star Wars fan.
Me neither. But I don't have a job. Yeah. So.
Well, not yet.
That might be why.
Not yet, but but I find it very interesting. And you met in your adult years, which is pretty
yes.
well. But when I was growing up, it was very difficult for me to find outside of two of my best buddies. You know, we grew up together and saw the original trilogy films. But after that, after the original trilogy films ended, that was it. You know, I couldn't find anybody else who watched Star Wars, who were into the films, and it took a very long time on, you know, again, really until Keith came along. You know, I really didn't have anyone to talk to Star Wars about then. Yeah,
man.
But that's pretty awesome. I did not know that you guys met at work. That's pretty cool.
The funny part is we both love Star Wars, and my dad, like, he brought home like these golden books, and I read them.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, when do we watch the movies?
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
I love that. And we were just in Midtown Comics in New York City visiting one of our favorite comic shops outside of Atomic City Comics in Philly. And there's a whole bunch of new golden books that are Star Wars. So there's new kids who are going to be able to pick up Star Wars, which is really cool. But yeah, I never took for granted the fact that I had a buddy at work whose desk I could walk by and just start a Star Wars conversation. And I can't remember what some of the early ones were about, Ben, but I know that once The Force Awakens was going to come out, that's when things, I think, really ramped up for us, with us speculating about what's happening in this trailer and really kind of going deep and getting really, really excited. That I think that's when things sort of took a turn for us. I don't know what you would say.
No, that I think that it was the exact moment I would pinpoint where we drove to the movie together. We sat there on a Thursday night watching The Force Awakens and had a blast.
And can I just say real quick? Sorry to interrupt. Can I just say real quick? So as this was a point of pride for us because we got the earliest tickets, I think, like on the East Coast. We went to like a 6 o'clock showing. So we were kind of walking around like we're some of the first people in this country to see The Force Awakens. It felt like a really big deal, and we kind of wanted to report back to the world. And you know, a few years later, here we are podcasting about all our favorite Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, and we, you know, we had that great experience the night, like the night of the movie, like you said, and the Friday the next day at work. We had to put time on each of our calendars so that we could get together over lunch just to keep talking about it and and carry over that excitement. So it didn't stop with just watching the movie and being like, okay, well, I'll see you next year when we go to the next movie, Rogue One. It was keep the adventure going, keep the conversation going. We just could not get enough of it.
Cool. But I guess that's how you were introduced to Star Wars.
Well, that's how they both found out they were Star Wars fans, but you know, that's a good question to ask.
So yeah, how were you introduced to Star Wars individually?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me personally, it was by my dad. Very similar, right? I think it's carried down from generation to generation at this point, and I'm trying to do the same for my kids. Not with as much luck yet, but there's still time. But but my dad introduced me to the original trilogy, and then, you know, in '99 when Phantom Menace came out, I was, you know, starting to become a teenager into my own, and I think that's what really solidified it for me. Like, I was into classical music at that time, you know, playing in school, and so I distinctly remember buying Attack of the Clones, the soundtrack, and playing it to death to the point where my CD was so scratched up. CDs, like, I still had a CD then. It was crazy. And it was so scratched up I could barely listen to it anymore. So I really fell in love with it as a teenager, but I don't think it went as deep as it has gone now. As I grew up, became a little bit more comfortable in my own skin, embraced that fandom a bit more. I've just gone even deeper with it.
Wow. I only have one question. What's a CD?
No, right. You know what a CD is.
No, I'm kidding.
The cookie dispenser, I think, is what it is.
That sounds great. I'll take 2 of those. Or a cheesesteak dispenser.
I stole that joke from another 90s movie. Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
Jan, what's your story? How did you start off? How were you introduced to Star Wars?
Sort of similar. And I've shared this on the podcast before. I think I kind of walked into my dad watching Return of the Jedi and was just, you know, totally enthralled with the speeders and the Ewoks. And I remember thinking, well, what is this? And finding out it was part of a bigger story, and then kind of going down the rabbit hole. and somewhere where I think Ben and I had different experiences when we were kids. I got into the music a little bit later and stuff, but when I was growing up, we had that dry spell, through pretty much the whole 90s where there wasn't anything new on screen for Star Wars, but there was a ton of what they used to call the expanded universe books. And I was tearing through those and all these different side stories about Luke and Han and Leia and Lando and Chewie and all of our favorite original characters, just having all these different adventures. I got really into that stuff. And then by the time the prequel trilogy came out, I was a diehard fan.
Yeah. By the way, Ben, did you grow up in the Philly area?
I did not, and that's an important thing to clarify too, because not only when I started working at the company I'm at now, I was brand new to the area. I grew up in Michigan, and so starting at my company, I didn't know anybody, and so Jan was my first friend in this area, and it was really instrumental in not just getting me comfortable here, but my wife as well. Both of our wives met and became friends, and went on to dinner a couple times, kept hanging out, and so. Really, Jan's been really instrumental in making sure I transitioned to the area.
Great. And did you grow up here, Jan, or did you grow up somewhere else?
Kind of, sort of. So I was born in Poland. That's how you get a cool name like Jan. And then when we first moved to the States, we lived in Florida in the Fort Myers area, and then eventually worked our way up here. But Philly, like Ben, I think now Philly's home for us, and I think will be for a good long time.
Okay. So what is your connection to Chris Ryan's Broaxium?
To Chris.
Chris is Chris
is somebody who we bother every day. Every day.
With Star Wars related questions usually.
Yep.
But when we started the podcast, we were getting to know a few people and reaching out here and there. Jan was really good at making sure we had a presence on social media, and just somehow got connected with them, and chat started back and forth about their channel and what they do, and that they're from Philly, and it just kind of made sense that we partner. So
I basically sent them a fan letter. Because the Star Wars comics were kind of new to me, and I think new to you as well, Ben, right? Like
yes.
we weren't deep in the Star Wars comics, and so they have for anybody who hasn't seen it, Broaxium has this thing called Quickshot of Broaxium. Every Wednesday they do like a 45-second, minute-long preview that's spoiler-free of the comics that are coming out that day. And I started to get really into these, and I basically sent them a fan letter and said, hey, we really love what you guys are doing. Learning so much about the comics, feels like it's this whole piece of the Star Wars universe that I didn't know enough about. And then I think it grew into sort of a friendship, and then they invited us aboard, and we're really lucky that they did.
Mm-hmm. And guys, I'm going to give you some feedback.
Please.
Since these tend to be short, like 45-second to minute previews, what I say is you could take those previews and put them on YouTube Shorts, because we started our shorts like a month ago? And we got like 3.6 thousand views of them.
Wow.
So the shorts get a lot of views because people just sometimes scroll through them and your video will pop up. So you can do that because they're a lot more accessible than, say, searching for it, because not everybody always wants to watch, like, say, if you're watching Minecraft videos, you're not exactly going to want to switch to all of a sudden Marvel content or something.
Right. That's a great
idea. That's a good tip.
It's easier to like kind of wedge it onto people's plate without them really noticing.
That's a good way to put it too.
Trying to serve it to them in plain sight. Bad analogy, but you get it.
The new
No, it's not. It's a good one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're pointing out something that's key, which is, as part of doing this, like, we love Star Wars and want to continue spreading it. And we got to spread it in new ways, and ways that people want to digest it, whether it's the long version of our podcast, which we can usually go anywhere up from an hour to an hour and a half talking, to like the short version, like you said, all the way down to that little 45-second clip.
Yeah. Minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, before you ask your next question, who came up with the name the Star Bros?
Oh, Who did, Jan? I don't even remember.
I think it was me. I wasn't jumping in there to take credit for it right off the bat, but I think it was me because Ben and I had a tradition where we would always greet each other in the morning. Good morning, bro. And then the other person would say, good morning, bro. And just
That's cute. That's cool.
Oh, and
Yeah.
it
Wow,
went
I
from
should have thought of that.
Yeah.
it
I
went
should be-
beyond that, right? It went beyond bro, and occasionally
Yeah.
we'd start getting really fun with it and say like Jan Brolo, or we'd say anything where we
Yep.
could have bro with, or
Brosif, whatever,
Brosif.
Bro Montana.
yeah, and just had fun coming up with a new name like that every day. And then after a while, I think we were like, wow, I'm officially out of names.
Yeah, I think we went through the Bilbro Baggins, all of
Yes.
them, everyone that we could think of. But then yeah, and so we were in that phase where we were doing that pretty much every day. And so Star Wars, Star Bros just kind of came together. So yeah, it's stuck. But we were very careful in the beginning to say, hey, this is not gender exclusive. Anybody can be one of the Star Bros and part of the Bros family. And it's the same thing with Broaxium. They've decided, or Chris always corrects us and says Broaxium is we. We've decided that anybody can be a bro host, and doesn't matter which gender you are. It's not just a boys club. So the Star Bros is for everybody, and Broaxium's for everybody.
I kind of equate it back to being from the city of brotherly love, right? The bro
That
is
too.
really reflective of where we're from, Philadelphia, and what that stands for, and kind of reaching out to everybody, and treating everybody like your brother or sister, and being respectful of one another. So that's really what we're going after.
Yeah, and we've stayed true to that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Could you imagine if you named the podcast the Star Siblings though?
The Star Siblings, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, Jan and I are pretty much like brothers at this point in real life. So as close as you can get.
Running that through my head, that actually does sound like a cool name.
Yeah.
It's a really cool name.
Right. Yeah.
For a web series.
I like it.
Yeah. But we want to hear all about your experience at the New York Comic Con.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I got a lot of questions. Like, is it your first time going?
Yeah.
Where did you want to go? What panels did you attend? What big news did you hear? But let's first go with, is this your first time going?
This
Ben,
was
after
my
you.
first time going. I had never been to a con before. My one experience with a con, I was taking a really stressful test in Philadelphia one year and walked out of it and found out that it was Comic Con in Philadelphia, and saw people walking around in cosplay, and it was exactly what I needed to kind of break the tension of the day with the test. That was the closest I had ever gotten before. So this was my first time, and I absolutely enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to go once before with my wife and her younger brother, and this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, and we got to see some really cool stuff. We got to see Stan Lee speak just before he passed away, which is pretty amazing. But this was our first Comic-Con as Star Wars podcasters and as real heavy duty Star Wars fans. And Ben made a really good point of, it's a huge get together, thousands and thousands of people, but there's anything you can think of. So there is Minecraft stuff, and there's anime stuff, and and so it's sort of, Ben pointed out that there was a subgroup of us who were all Star Wars fans who were kind of this little community within the bigger community, which is cool. And we were seeing the same people, and we were meeting people and running into them in line and things like that. And it was just, it's pretty kind of overwhelming when you first walk in and you see Jawas walk by, and then Chewbacca walks by, and you see all the authors who we've been following, and it's all kind of coming at you at once. It's pretty amazing. We were having lunch at one point, and I told Ben, for every once in a while, I'd kind of forget that we were there for a second, but then just a few stormtroopers would walk by in costume, and I'd realize, oh my gosh, we're still here. We're at Comic-Con. This is amazing. So just a totally kind of like mind-blowing experience.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, how much was the presence of Star Wars there? Because I know it's a Comic-Con, so you've had multiple cosplayers, dressed as Marvel or anime.
Or
How much of Star Wars did you see there?
Quite a bit. I would say that it was almost like every third cosplayer or something was wearing something Star Wars. I mean,
Nice.
you could go through the list of, we saw Leia's and Stormtroopers, a lot of Mandalorians. One of our favorite was someone who had a Boba Fett helmet that was completely clad in like diamonds, you know, or not real diamonds, but still it looked pretty good. But I was impressed with that, and I was impressed with how much Star Wars content you could find as you walked around, whether it was the Funko Pops or the comics or the action figures, anything. And then, of course, the presence of Lucasfilm through the Disney publishing and everything that we'll get to in a little bit around the High Republic. And I think what made this one a little bit more special. Now, I don't have a celebration yet to compare it to. I hope to soon. Same with a San Diego Comic Con. That would be great. There's not as much emphasis on the TV or on the movies and such. And so what I liked about it, to Jan's point about community, was it felt like we got much closer to that community, and we met every single author in the High Republic. We got to meet Kristen Baver and have a great chat with her. And I don't think those
who's from Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
She's from Kutztown. So we had a nice conversation about all of us being from PA, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I went there on a field trip once.
You did?
Crystal Case.
Nice.
Oh, that's out there. That's right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know if we would have had any of all those experiences if it weren't for the fact that we were going to New York Comic Con, where Star Wars may be in the mix, but not the main focus and priority.
Nice. Okay. Well, so is that the reason why you went to New York Comic Con, because of Star Wars specifically, or you just wanted to just experience the Comic Con?
John, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, we went because of Star Wars, and I actually we went to celebrate Ben's birthday a little bit early.
Very early.
So that's coming up. And I was telling him I tried to get them to move Comic-Con to his birthday, and they were not responding to my emails. So we got it as close as we could. But yeah, it was a little bit of an early birthday celebration. But we were really focused on the Star Wars stuff. And when I booked it, I think we already knew that a bunch of the authors were going to be there. We knew that the Disney Lucasfilm table was going to be there. And we knew that cosplaying was going to be a big thing. So it was going to be an opportunity to see a lot of fun stuff too. And it delivered everything that we were hoping to get. We were texting yesterday. We went Saturday. The day after, we were texting, and we were kind of both saying, like, we're still like buzzing with all this energy from this experience and getting to talk to these people and getting to see all this stuff. It was just so cool. So cool.
All right, well, let's get into it. Yeah. Tell us, what happened. Go ahead.
What panels did you attend? Like, what did you hear at the panels? Give us the scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, so we only were able to attend one panel in the end, and this was, I had a little bit of a beef with this. I don't know about you, Jan, but they scheduled 2 Star Wars panels at the same
time, the only 2 of the day.
Yeah. Okay. So we were a little disappointed in that, but we made do, and we chose the High Republic one over it was the George Lucas show was the other one,
which I still don't know what that is, because I know that he wasn't there.
Yes, I think it was the comedy related to comedy.
Okay.
But so we attended the High Republic one, and it was the first time that we were all getting the chance to see what novels were coming out and hearing some of the characters that they would be exploring, some of the comics and everything that we kind of got with phase 1 and just getting a glimpse into what phase 2 would be about. And it's a bit of an expanded lineup this time. There are a few newer authors that'll be coming, and some really cool surprises along the way that we'll get into in a second. But so that ended up being our only panel, but we filled the rest of the day with going around all the shops. There was the signing of The Path of Deceit, which is the first book that is coming out in the High Republic. So we got to meet Justina Ireland and Tessa Gratton, and then we had went down Artist Alley and met Charles Soule and got to meet some of the comic book writers, so and illustrators. So it was a very busy day going from booth to booth.
We actually met Charles Soule at 2022.
Yeah, the Philly Fan Expo. Yeah.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, by the way, you know what you should do next time there's 2 Star Wars panels? Since there's 2,
split up.
Exactly. Split up. Like
Ooh.
when he goes to the first panel, when he goes to the second panel, and then you regroup somewhere, like probably the food court. I don't know. You can
Probably the food court. You probably got
and then
that
you
right.
talk, and then you swap whatever happened in each panel. You can
That's
talk.
a good call. That's
That
a very
is.
good call.
Yeah.
Except Jan, I don't know who would have gone to the other panel. I think we both would have been fighting for the High Republic. It was that
I think
good.
we probably would have. Yeah, I think we would have ruined that plan by both going to the same one. But
Yeah.
But
You
it
guys
was
are so funny.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what was at that George Lucas panel, but I guess maybe, yeah,
Tough-
if
tough
it
to
was
say.
really, yeah, I figured if it was really that big, they would
It'd
have
be
hyped it
on
up.
Twitter.
Well, they would have hyped it up
Yeah.
a little bit, and they wouldn't have scheduled it along with the
Yeah.
High Republic panel.
And
So
Twitter would have
Right.
found out.
you probably didn't miss anything. So
Yeah.
I think that's right, or that I'm going to tell myself that for sure.
Right.
But no, the High Republic panel really did deliver, I think, beyond our expectations, in that like we got some behind the scenes stuff. One of our favorite artists is a guy named Aryo Anindito, and he's from Indonesia, and didn't expect to see him there, but he was there in person, and he was talking about his process. And he just like building Lego houses, he was telling us how he went to school for architecture, and how in this new series, Cavan Scott has him drawing a lot of Jeddah, the world with big city, and how that came in really handy when he was drawing out all the buildings in this city, and how later on he found out that Cavan Scott wants to draw way more cities in future comics, and he's sort of like sweating about it because all of his like architecture school dreams and nightmares are coming back. But we got to see like, what's the process? How did they talk about things? How did they think through things? And the other thing that was really neat was they showed the covers of a lot of the books that are coming out.
Yeah.
And there were a few cases where the authors themselves had not seen the final covers of the book. So everybody in the audience kind of went, whoa. And the authors went, whoa. Like they were excited to see it with us, which was a really cool experience.
yeah, I saw some of the covers on StarWars.com. Were the artists of two questions. So the covers, were they done by the same artists? And were the artists there to present the covers? Do you know?
I don't believe they were done by the same artists, but the one artist that was, I think Ario was the only artist that was on stage. The rest of them were the authors. Is that correct, Jan?
I think that's correct. But what was nice was they talked a little bit about the process of coming up with the cover, of finalizing the art without, you tell a little bit of the story without giving too much away. And then afterwards, some of the authors were tweeting and shared pictures of different drafts of the covers. And it seems like it's a really creative back and forth process. But I think that's the other cool thing about Comic-Con is there's a lot of kind of marrying up the writers and then the people who create the visual artwork that you see, and you kind of get to see both processes at the same time. But really cool stuff.
So I think that wraps up all our NYCC questions.
Well, I mean, just to make sure, is there anything else that you could tell us about NYCC?
Oh yeah, we've got some other big stuff.
Yeah,
that
please.
we'd love to tell you.
Yeah.
This is where Ben talks for an hour.
Yeah, this is I'm literally.
So please tell us everything.
1 hour later.
Spill the tea.
So there's at least one piece that I'm really excited about. A lot of the stuff I think it was released and discussed on StarWars.com. So definitely go check it out. And I'll reiterate some of those things. Like they talked about how this is occurring 150 years before Phase 1, right? And how this is in an age of expansion. There are zones that the Jedi are trying to check out with the Republic, and so the point that I think it was Charles Soule that said this was that the stories just get a bit more wild because of that you're exploring expansionary space and all these different groups that just live by a different code than what the Republic lives by. So I think that should be really excited to see this first book, which we have now in our hands, Path of Deceit.
Look at that beautiful cover art.
Oh yeah,
hold that up a little bit closer.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
Yeah, so by
awesome.
buying it too, Disney Publishing gave like this whole bag of like knickknacks, including some socks. Some High Republic socks was one of the highlights.
Which I was telling Ben, you can't wear those with long pants. You have to wear shorts, and you have to jack up the socks so everybody can see all the lightsabers and everything else on there.
Yeah, it's the only way to wear it. or to pull them up over your jeans, whichever version of nerd you're going by that day, right? But they also gave a poster out with it, and you were able to go around and get it signed by the authors later on. So that was really cool.
And you know what was really nice, by the way, was when I went to get my copy of Path of Deceit signed, and I didn't have a poster. And the authors asked me, they were like, "Where's your poster? We'll get you a poster. We'll have somebody run and get you a poster." They were so kind and so nice. They didn't want me to go without a poster.
Wonderful.
They were some of the nicest people you've ever met.
And by the way, can you run off the names of the authors that were there?
Sure.
I'm going to forget some, I'm afraid. But so we had Justina Ireland, Tessa Granton, Daniel Jose Oder, Kevin Scott, Charles Soule was there, George Mann. Thank you. Am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting one.
Claudia Gray.
Claudia Gray was there.
Claudia Gray was there. Yeah, Ben had a whole conversation with her about she moved to New Orleans, and there's some other interesting stuff going on. It sounds like her and Ben are old friends at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. We were just striking up a conversation of all the places we've ever been in the world. She's applying for citizenship in Italy and things like that. Just came up naturally. It was really cool, and that just shows how personable they were. So yeah, great people. And then I think I'll say one of the highlights for me was meeting Kristen Baver. I mean, she looks like she's got such a nice personality on screen. And you're like, is that really the person behind the scenes? And she absolutely is.
Oh,
right?
She was lovely. Yeah,
she was so nice, so kind. You could talk with her for probably an hour. And so we really liked our conversation with her as well.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll highlight is we got a bunch of autographs, which was really cool. And we had a couple of cool autograph experiences. And one of them was, and I'm reaching for my book here. So Life Day's coming up. Life Day is in November. And one of my favorite books from the last couple of years is the Life Day Treasury.
And we have that.
You have that. Cool. So we went that evening on Saturday, there was a signing, and it was most of the authors were all there. And one of them wasn't. And so this book is written by George Mann and Kevin Scott. And George Mann was there, but Kevin Scott wasn't. And so I'm getting it signed by George Mann. And this was just sort of the vibe of the day. And he said, "Hey, you should go get this signed by Kevin, and I can tell you where he is." And he directed us where to find Kevin Scott. And sure enough, I got both George Mann and Kevin Scott.
Awesome.
Who said Happy Life Day and Christmas in the Stars.
Yeah.
So very, very happy to get that. And then we had a couple other moments, like Ben went to get something signed by Charles Soule. I think it was maybe the Vader comic.
Yep.
And we were chatting a little bit, and we talked a little bit about Broaxium. And he said, "Hey, wait here for a second." And he knew where the artist was for that particular comic. Is that correct, Ben?
Yeah, Will Sliney. Yep.
And so Charles Soule just disappeared and then came back with two signatures, both his own and the artist. And so he sort of went out of his way to make sure that Ben got as many autographs as he could without having to do a lot of running around himself. And that was just kind of the vibe that we got from them. They were just very generous, and they really wanted us to feel appreciated as fans. And I don't know, we felt the love. It was great.
That's incredible. Wow.
And there's one more story, if you don't mind me sharing. And this is the one I think that I really was excited to share with you guys, because so Charles Soule, when we had him on Podathon a few weeks ago, we asked him, "Hey, is there we know you're about to do this panel, is there anything you could tease?" And he's like,
"Oh yeah,
not really, but there's one I'm very excited to share." And so we just wanted to know what it was right away, of course. And so he got the chance to reveal this project that he's working on and how it's all about family. That was one of the things that was important to him. And he invited his daughter, Rosemary, onto the stage at that moment. And it's been since announced, but he definitely got a little bit choked up and emotional introducing his daughter as a co-author on this kid's book that he's doing that's set in the High Republic, that features Yoda with younglings and one of our favorite characters from Phase 1, Buryaga. So it's really special to see just how deep the family ties go, not just in the High Republic, right, but through all the Star Wars, and how we're bringing our own families to it, just like you guys are.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Do you know when that's coming out?
Spring 2023 is when I think they said.
Yeah. And it is called Yoda and the Younglings.
Yes.
Very
About
creative
that.
name.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I can't wait for that one. Yeah, that's
That's
absolutely.
going to be a good one.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh, wonderful. It's very, very cool. So um, let's talk about the High Republic. So now we have, oh, by the way, I believe there's a comic book that's actually getting released this week as well. Do you know anything about that? A new comic?
Yes.
High Republic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be previewing that on this week's Quick Shot. So this week this is the first comic of Phase 2 of the High Republic. This one's going back in time, as Ben mentioned. The story is by Cavan Scott, and the artwork is by Ario Anandito. They did a lot of the Kiev Trennis and Skier and that whole storyline from Phase 1, which we loved. We went crazy for that one. But this one, the one thing that they teased at Comic Con that we can share is that it takes place on Jeddah. So we're finally going to get to go back in time and see what Jeddah was like before the events of Rogue One and before all of that. And it's an interesting and a very kind of conflicted place. I'll say that. There's a lot of people kind of running into each other and trying to have things be their way and not succeeding. And so a lot of conflict.
Kraydon and the Twinkle Sisters, right?
I think that might be this one, but I'm gonna bite my tongue. By the way, that's an interesting thing when you get to see all the live authors, but there's somebody from Disney Lucasfilm in the room, because they keep wanting to say things, and then the guy from just kind of keeps doing this thing and cutting them off. That happened with pretty much every author, right? Where they were kind of leaning forward to say something, and then they got stopped or stopped themselves.
Yes.
I'm just trying to picture them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's a lot of pressure, just to make sure that you
Yeah.
don't say anything.
Just
have to
imagine.
look at.
Just imagine opening your mouth and all of a sudden somebody's like,
Yes. Right. Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the best part was when he would tease them a little bit and get like almost tell them like you're allowed to say something that was deep. And the best one was I think he looked at them all and said, don't you all have a character that dies in one of your books?
And they kind of looked at each other.
And they're like, are we allowed to raise our hand for this? Like, I don't want to.
Just raise their hands slowly.
So expect to have your heart broken just as much with Phase 2 as you did with Phase 1.
Of course.
Yeah.
So as far as the High Republic, where do you think this is going? Well, of course they can obviously keep going with phases, 3 and 4. But do you think at some point, in order for them to expand the High Republic, get more Star Wars fans involved with who the characters are, the stories, do you see a future where there will be a High Republic TV series or a High Republic film?
Ooh.
That'd be great,
Ooh,
to see like another animated TV show,
or even an animated show.
which
Yes.
Animated would be great. Yeah.
like characters when they're like, I don't know, like 14 or 15, kind of like a Star Wars Resistance style show, but featuring like younger teenage versions.
Yeah.
Imagine Buryaga as a teenager though, like nobody else would be around because and Buryaga would just be so short. He'd be like a baby.
Yeah.
I'm totally in for that.
Yeah.
Me too.
I could see a few things happening personally. One, I mean, I think strategically, like I think about why would Disney want to do this, and I think there's a lot of different reasons. One is to test some things out, see what people like, see what sticks, introduce these characters, and then get you to want to see them in live action at some point. I think we're already getting something set in the era of the High Republic at some point with the Acolyte that's coming soon. So there could be some tie-ins with that. Who knows? We have no idea, but. If I were to predict, I think it's really interesting that we're going back in time instead of continuing further with Phase 2, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They can explore places like Jeddah. They can build out characters that we know, like we know Maz Kanata is going to be in one of these stories. So they can do that. They can
Dexter Jetster
is going to be in one. Therm Scissor Punch we heard is going to be in one. All these deep characters that Star Wars fans know and can go, I know that guy. And so we're going to see a lot of those tie-ins, but my guess is that once we get back to Phase 3, it'll start tying into some things that we know. Like maybe we'll start figuring out where the Sith come into play again. So there could be there could be a lot of directions this go, and I'm signed up for all of it.
Great. So before we go, let's talk about Andor. And so far, there's been 5 episodes. Although if you're watching this in the future, there's been 6, 7,
as of this
8,
recording,
9, 10, 11,
as of this recording,
or
there's only
12.
5
Or the
episodes.
second season could be out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll get out sooner than that.
But to all you future people out there, however many episodes there are out there, but currently, as of right now, there's 5, soon to be 6. So we just wanted to take a little status check currently. So what do you like about the series? Like, are you enjoying it? And what storylines and characters stand out for you? We can go in a circle.
Go ahead, Jan.
Jan?
Oh, okay. So I am really enjoying it. To me, it feels really cinematic. It feels like I'm watching a movie when I sit down to watch it every week. I've loved the action that we've gotten so far. I've always loved Star Wars action. I've always loved pod racing, all that stuff. But I think it's been nicely balanced with like a lot of like really deep character development and discovering who these characters are. And maybe some of the characters are discovering who they are. Like take Cyril Karn, for example. His whole world is turned upside down. And now we're trying to figure out who's he going to be? How is this going to change him as a character? Where is he going? I like a lot of the kind of the development of these people and getting to see when the rebellion was sort of fractured and all over the place. What are the little steps that it took to all come together? So I'm a big fan. Can't wait for this week's episode. Can't wait to see what happens next. And I'm loving it so far. I'm into it. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm the same. I really like that they're slowing down the pace to explore these characters and develop them a bit more. My wife at the end of every episode will look at me like, "That's it! Like, I want more. I'm ready for more. Give it to me now." And I'm happy that they're slowing down and kind of developing all of these characters, because to me, the best example of that was at the end of episode 3, where after a couple episodes of watching Cassian, build these relationships, or at least show the relationships he has with, whether it's Bix or Marva, or doesn't have with Tim with 2 M's, and all these other characters. Like, there's a shot at the very end of the 3rd episode, though, where it kind of pans each one of their faces individually as Cassian's going away, and you feel a connection to every single one of them. You don't get that unless you stop and watch every character develop a little bit.
Good call.
And so I've been really appreciative of the pace personally, and that way it isn't just, action all the time, and it kind of stops to show the depth of what they're trying to accomplish in building this rebellion and how hard that is. I mean, I can't say anything without talking about Mom Mothma, right? And how great it is to see the sacrifices she has to make to build this rebellion as as someone who's in the public eye.
Yeah, parents insufferable. Oh my goodness.
Of course you would notice that, right? Like the kids and like the difficult, strained relationship she has with her daughter. Of course.
Yeah, like she just walks in the room with them and they just all seem to be plotting against her. They're like,
yes,
we don't like you. We're just gonna be the rudest people ever to you until you leave the room. And I'm like, wow, stop ganging up on your mother, please.
No. You would never do that, right?
You would never do that. Are you guys enjoying it?
Oh, yeah. You want to start? You want to talk about it?
Okay. Well, I am enjoying Andor. I'm glad that we're starting to kind of pick up the pace here. And hopefully episode 6, we're going to get a little bit of an action scene. Hopefully get to see them actually pull off the heist. But I am enjoying the fact that we finally got to see Cassian and Andor playing a title role, because I don't think they gave anybody in Rogue One enough screen time for their characters to develop, because they were like gone in a blink.
That's true. Right. Yeah,
we didn't really get to spend much time with them.
Yeah, because you have 12 episodes, you have the time to spend and develop these characters over time and to care about them. It's like Yeah, I'm enjoying the series. I'm loving it. I think it's some of the best acting I've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yes,
Yeah,
it really is.
yeah, absolutely. And these characters, the team that Clem, Cassian is working with, you're learning so much more about them every, for the last 2 weeks, that you're caring about these characters, and you're caring about their well-being, and you're thinking about, okay, well, who's going to make it and who's not going to make it,
who's hot, who's not.
Exactly. You're worried about this heist, like, are they going to pull it off next, this episode, who knows, or if it's going to fail, but what I'm excited about the most, besides the characterizations, is the writing. The writing is
great.
I find
it's so good.
I have to watch each episode at least twice, so that I can just sit and listen to what the characters are saying.
You gotta get fully immersed in it.
Right.
Just like Andor, you can't watch this at like 9 o'clock, sleeping, eating ice cream and potato chips. Like you
I do.
Really?
That sounds cool. Yeah.
Potato chips. Yes, potato chips, not ice cream too. Gosh.
Alert.
You do.
Have to be awake to get this, because Andor is just so deep. It's got such a deep meaning.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you think about it, it's all these people. It's like that people versus society storyline. Because it's Cassian and Mon Mothma, and just like it's them against everyone else. And Luthen too. Him too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the stakes aren't on Cassian. We know he's got to make it out, but the stakes are everybody else.
Everybody else.
Mothma,
Right.
But
the new characters.
Like everybody else.
You have no idea.
We don't know how Luthen. We don't know how it ends for
Cyril.
Luthen.
Yeah.
We don't know how it ends for Cyril. We don't know how it ends for
Dedra.
Dedra.
Yep.
We don't know how it ends for Bix. We don't know how it ends for anybody else.
Yeah. I think that's the best part of the show, because
there's stakes.
Yeah, they're right. And as Star Wars fans, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you can still enjoy the show, because we're seeing the characters for the first time, just like everybody else. So we're all starting from scratch.
It's like getting to see some fresh new faces.
Yeah.
And don't you just love how Stellan Skarsgård pronounces Andor?
Andor.
Like, Cassian Andor. And I'm like, wow.
And I just want to say one more thing about the dialogue, is that I find myself listening to what the characters are saying, writing down these quotes, because they mean something, like the axe forget, but the axe forgets, but the tree remembers.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the Empire be the axe. They come in, they invade these planets, and mercilessly steal what they want from these poor, defenseless people, and then they go and they have this huge celebration and forget all about it the next day as they go to the next planet.
Right.
But the people who were robbed, remember,
the trees,
the axe forgets.
Yes.
The tree remember. It's the people they steal from are the trees, and the Imperials are the axe.
Yeah, it's incredible writing.
Amazing.
Sometimes the trees become the axe, and then the axe gets their turn to forget.
Yeah,
and then
I like that.
That might be the second half of this season of the series, I think. But I used that line in a conversation with you on Saturday, right, Ben?
You did. I was about to say that.
We were on the train, and it was just like that little bit of wisdom I took from Andor, and it applied to the conversation we were having. It's chock full of good stuff.
Yes. And Kerwin, I did the same as you on my second watch. I turned the subtitles on.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to make sure that I didn't miss anything.
I did too. Yeah.
When you think about it, it's funny because usually when you make an axe, you have to use wood for the handle, which is the funny part, because once those trees get chopped down, they're gonna get turned into an axe, and they're gonna go back to the trees. Well, the axe is now a tree, I guess, and then they're gonna cut down the trees, and then the rebels are gonna be the axe that gets their turn to forget, and the Imperials are gonna be the tree that remembers.
How the turns table.
Right.
What?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. It was a turn. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, the turns table.
Isn't that how Michael Scott says it? I can't remember now.
I think it is. Yeah. Ben's had like 3 hot chocolates, so he's got
That's true.
Oh, you guys are like the funniest guests we've had on as of now.
Really?
I've laughed so much this episode.
we like to keep it light with our
Yep.
recordings. Every time we get together, there's always a joke. One of the things that Jan really likes to do is to throw me off and interrupt me with something funny just so that I can laugh and throw off my train of thought. He loves to do that. So
I love to take Ben on a tangent.
yes, tangents especially.
Mhm.
The show is very light. I'm floating right now.
Yes.
Good.
That's exactly why we enjoy listening.
That's the best review I've ever heard. I love that.
Yeah. That's exactly why we enjoy listening to the Star Bros.
Yeah, we should have you guys on again.
Yeah,
Would you like to
absolutely.
wrap up Andor?
We would
Yes,
love
we
to
would
join
love
you
that.
anytime. Yes.
And we should have you guys on the Star Bros podcast again sometime.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Absolutely. And
We
then
still
one
have the
day,
t-shirts.
yes, we have
Damn,
it.
we should have put them on this episode.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me to put the Star Bros t-shirts on. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we have the t-shirts.
That's okay.
There'll be
we
other
also-
times. We'll be back. We'll be back together, the four of us.
Yes.
So yeah, there'll be times for
We'll-
us to wear
we'll-
the shirts.
We'll get you a sticker next time we get together.
yeah.
Yes,
look at
we got stickers made. Yes, we'll get you some stickers and
And then
we'll
I
all
can
meet up for
put that on my
cheesesteaks.
archive.
There you go.
Absolutely. All right, guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is wonderful. Like I said, you're the best. I enjoy your podcast, and I like that you're family friendly. That's what we're going for here. So I don't have a problem with keep listening to your podcast. I don't have to worry about anything. So just thank you for that. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. This has been a blast. It was great to have you on, and then to turn it around and come turn the tables around. Right?
How the turns table.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
And come here to your show. So thank you for
Yeah.
all you're doing in the community and all the great stuff you've contributed over the past year, and keep up the good work.
Yes, and we're huge fans of yours too. I'm always forwarding your videos to family members and friends, and talking about the different insights that you land on, the good conversations you have, and just really, really love the show. So please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you,
guys.
so much. Thank you. Where can people find you?
Oh, where can they find us? All right, if you're on Twitter, we are at Starbros Podcast. You can send us an email. If you just want to email us and say, hey, we think you should talk about this topic, or did you notice this about Andor, or whatever is on top of mind when it comes to Star Wars stuff, the starbrospodcast@gmail.com. We're on the Broaxium YouTube channel and Facebook too. We're on Facebook at the Star Bros Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
And us. Woo. All right. So we are wherever you listen to us, wherever you get your podcast from. Check out our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Father Said Galaxy. Visit our website, fathersaidgalaxy.com. As mentioned before, please check out our Patreon page. Please donate there so that you can access awesome Lego builds like this and much
Gargantos.
Yeah. Here's a little sneak peek of the cake.
Okay. That's the case.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at Comic Con again. I'm getting teasers.
And then check out our Spreaker page as well.
Okay. And all of our streaming platforms, and we have a website.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay. All right.
Did I cover all the bases, producer?
All right. Yes, the website. You said the website.
Yes.
Right? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
All right.
website. The website's always forgotten for some reason.
Okay. FatherSonGalaxy.com. You can find us
Yes, I said that.
Cool.
there. All right. Thank you.
Numerous times.
Okay. Ben and you. Yeah. Ben and Jan, thank you again. This has been incredible. This is fun. Can't wait to talk to you more about Andor, but we'll be in touch.
Yes.
And we'll hope to see you in person one day soon.
Yeah, hoping
Yeah.
to see
Sounds
you at
great.
Comic-Con, not Comic-Con. Hoping to see you at Celebration Europe.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds
One
great.
of these.
Who knows? Or
Who
even
knows? Maybe.
the Philly Expo next year. They're in.
Yes, let's
Yes.
plan for that.
Yeah.
Love it.
I don't have to fly to that one.
Ben, you can get there however you want. Don't
True.
put limits on yourself.
True.
I wouldn't fly though. That seems like a waste. That seems like a waste of money.
Yeah.
Like to fly like 10 for 10 minutes and then be like, we have reached our destination, the
But-
Philadelphia International Airport,
Yeah.
which is
I was
you left from.
Were you picturing a Mandalorian jetpack, Ben?
I was thinking of skydiving in and coming in Iron Man style
What an
personally.
entrance.
There you go.
Like Iron Man at the expo, you're just gonna drop
That's
it
right.
at the Stark Expo, like how Iron Man did at the Stark Expo. You're just gonna like fly in and all of a sudden be like, hey, and then
That's
like
it.
and music starts. You got like 2 billion backup dancers just dancing.
That's it. You know exactly what I'm referencing. Good
And
job.
I'll just be
Iron
standing there
Man
eating a
2.
cheesecake watching.
All right. I can't wait to see that, Ben. All right.
Yeah, you know
Pressure's
Thank you
what?
guys
on.
so much.
That cheesesteak in my hands.
All right. Thanks again, fellas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. You guys are the best.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode. So until next time, take care.
And we will see you again.